The Bible is telling us that all of us were dead in the trespasses and sins in which we once walked. So the Bible says we were dead. When we are living in sin, what a lot of people in the world would call life and pleasure, the Bible says, no, that's opposite. That's actually death. When you read James 1, he talks about how temptation grows. And then when we're tempted, then we start dabbling into, sin. And yet the more we get involved in it, he says it eventually gives birth to death. And it's actually a very sad, kind of morbid picture in James 1, because it's the picture of sin being conceived. It's using words having to do with birth. And it's talking about the temptation, and it conceives, and then it grows. But then it's the idea that when this baby is full grown, then you give birth, and it's actually a stillborn baby, which is the most tragic, saddest, horrifying feeling. And he says that's the way it is with sin. At first, it looks so good, but the more you cultivate it and it grows in you, eventually it's going to lead to death. It's the same thing that Romans teaches, that the wages of sin is death. And so here he says that you were dead in the trespasses and sins in which you once walked. Now, it's weird. You got to understand, it's weird that some of this stuff is debated today, because it really hasn't been for centuries. It's weird that I have to explain that there is such a thing as sin. And it's not up to you. You have no voice. Your opinion does not matter at all. Your feelings don't matter at all. When you go, well, I don't think that's sin, it's not up to you. You don't have a say in the matter. The idea is sin is determined by God. This word for sin means to miss the mark. It's the idea of a bullseye. Like a bullseye has been drawn, a target has been drawn, and the idea to miss that mark which God has painted, he says that's sin. Now, we live in a world where people like to shoot an arrow, and then wherever it lands, they draw the target around it and go, bullseye. I nailed it. And that's what we like to do with our own lifestyles. We want to live how we want to live, and then we go, no, that's okay. Look, I just drew the circle around it. That's actually the target. When God says, no, that's not your right. You can call it your preference, your right, your choice, but it's not. There's a holy God in heaven, and he determines, he judges my actions. I can go ahead and judge my own, but it really doesn't matter. Like Paul says, my conscience is clear, but that doesn't make me innocent. It's the Lord who judges me. And so here he says, you were dead in your trespasses and sin in which you once walked. So that tells us that you were not a good person. And I know that's offensive, because we live in a time when people want to believe that they are inherently good. And yet the Bible says, no, actually you were dead in your trespasses and sins in which you once walked. And then he says, following the course of this world, following the prince of the power of the air. Because you're walking in your sin, and he says you're following the course of the world. Okay, this is so important to understand. He says when you're walking in your sin, you're following what the whole world does. You know how this, you can go to whatever, Netflix or Hulu or Spotify, and you just look at what's trending. What's trending? Well, the Bible says what's trending is sin. What's trending is missing God's mark. He says the world, when you are walking in your sin and your trespasses, you're just following the course of the world. In Matthew chapter 7, verse 7, he says there's a wide road, a wide and easy road that leads to destruction, and many go down it. And yet there is a narrow and difficult road that leads to life, and few will find it. See, it's so easy to feel confident when you're in the majority. I mean, don't you love being in a crowd where everyone agrees with you, right? And you're cheering for something, everyone's cheering for the same thing. If you're at a Warriors game and you're just screaming for the Warriors, and the majority's with you. There might be a couple of Boston Celtics fans, and you're just like, wow, what are you doing here? You love being with that crowd, and yet the Bible says if you love that popularity, you need to understand you're following the course of the world. The majority is going to be trending towards sin. There's a wide road that many go down, and it leads to destruction. And there's a narrow and difficult road that leads to life, and he says few will find it.